Hello everyone, hope you are good and be happy always. Once again, welcome to Shachi's Academy, and now we will discuss part 2 of our last chapter, that is chapter 9 of Indian Economic Development for class 12 CBSE NCERT. We have already discussed in our first part that what were the growth strategies that were adopted by India, China and Pakistan. These are the three neighbors we are discussing. Their growth strategies have been already discussed, and now we will discuss other details in our part 2. Let's start with the topic for comparative development experiences of India and its neighbors, that is Pakistan and China. First of all, we will discuss experiences and achievements of India, Pakistan and China regarding demographic indicators. What are they? These are the indicators which tell you about population, what is the population of any country, then annual growth of population, density per square kilometer, sex ratio, fertility rate and urbanization. So let's discuss them in details with the data. That is India. In million, what is the population in year 2019? So this data is for the year 2019. Now your data has changed, but I have included this very data because it is given in your book, that is being referred to all the schools of CBSE throughout or across India in different states. So the population of India as per the data of 2019 is your 1352 millions. For China it was 1393 millions, and for Pakistan it is 212 millions. So population details are these. Here you can see that China is highest populated country among all the three, but now the details have changed and India has moved forward in population. Now annual growth of population is 1.03 in India, for China it is 0.46 and for Pakistan it is 2.05. For density per square kilometer we have 455 people per square kilometer in India, in comparison to 148 people in China and 275 people in Pakistan. That means it has the highest density of population and its growth rate is second among three countries. The sex ratio is 924 per 1000 males in India. For China it is 949. All of us know what is sex ratio. Sex ratio is number of females per 1000 males. For example, there are 1000 males in some area or in some locality. For those 1000 males, how many females are there, girl child are there? That is sex ratio. Okay, so here we have the lowest sex ratio in India, and on second number is Pakistan, and first is your 949 people females for 1000 males in China. That means China is having the best sex ratio among three nations. Then fertility rate in India is 2.2, then for China it is 1.7 and for Pakistan it is 3.6. That means Pakistan has the highest fertility rate among three nations. Then urbanization. Urbanization in India is 34%, in China it is 59% and in Pakistan it is 37%. That means India has lowest rate of urbanization among three countries. Then we have population. Now on the basis of table we can discuss details regarding demographic indicators. That is India and China together are a habitat of nearly 38% of world's population, total population. That means more than 1/3 of whole population of world lives in these two nations, that is India and China. India with a habitat for nearly 18% of the world's population. So India is a habitat or a home. That means 18% of total population of the world lives in India and 20% of the total world's population lives in China. And Pakistan is a small country, its population is 1/10 of China. That means if you count with the percentage of this, it is only, you can say, 2% of world's population. Okay, only 1/10 of population of India or China lives in Pakistan. Density of population. China has low density of population compared with India and Pakistan. Now, what is the utility of lower density of population? If any nation has lower number of people living per square kilometer, it is good or bad? Yes, it is of course obviously good. Why? Because they have more resources on per head basis. Why? Because they have better environment, they have better air to breathe, they have better facilities, they have better natural resources and better forest cover. Okay, but in India we have lower amount of or lower percentage of forest cover and other facilities because our population is very high, our density is very high. But in comparison to India, China's density of population is low and that's why it is better. Then the fertility rate. The fertility rate is low in China, it is high in India, alarmingly high in Pakistan. That means Pakistan's fertility rate is very high. More and more children are taking birth over there. Then China has successfully contained its fertility rate by pursuing the policy of one child policy in 1979. In 1979, China experienced population explosion and its population was increasing at an alarming rate. And then after the government of China adopted one child policy, that means each household or each family will have, that means husband and wife, one pair of husband and wife will have only one child, no more than one child. That means one child policy was adopted here. It can be either a boy or a girl, but no more than one child. As a result of lower fertility rate, China has the lowest rate of growth of population among the three nations. So it has the lowest rate of fertility and that's why its population growth is lowest among three countries. Then one child policy of China. This should be discussed in detail. As I explained that we know very less about China, that's why we discuss all the things in detail. Then one child policy was introduced in China in 1979 to address the issue of population explosion. Then China has successfully reduced the growth rate of population to nearly half from 1.33% in 1979 to nearly 0.46% in 2017. So it has drastically reduced its population growth and population rate in comparison to 1979, and now it is only 0.46%. The policy was discontinued in early 2016 as the impact of policy was felt even beyond population growth. Now, when there was population explosion, China adopted one child policy, but after that it reduced its population. But there were many problems which came up due to introduction of this one child policy as a result of adoption of one child policy. Owing to high preference for a male child, having one girl child led to a serious discontentment. So there was social discontentment among Chinese that they can't have more than one child, and it was criticized vehemently by people in society of China. Then it led to widening gap between the number of males and females. That means it led to adverse sex ratio in Chinese. Then due to one child policy, the proportion of the elderly people had started increasing in comparison to younger population. Now, when there was lower fertility, there was lower growth of population. Now there were no young people in Chinese society, and they faced problem for their armed forces, for defense forces, for working in factories and establishments, for transportation services and everything, because only young people are able to work. So working population reduced in China, elderly population, that means old age people increased, and it led to burden on Chinese government and society as well. After 2016, each family is allowed to have 2 children. Now after 2016, each family can have 2 children. Now, urbanization. Both China and Pakistan are showing brighter signs of urbanization than India. Urbanization is closely linked with structural transformation in the country. Why urbanization is increasing in China and Pakistan and not in India? Why? Because Indian economy still is dependent more on agricultural sector, on rural sector. Here in India, still 2/3 of people are still dependent in agricultural sector. They live in rural areas, and that's why agriculture is their mainstay. So agriculture is in prominence, and when people live in rural areas, why would urbanization increase in India? And that's why urbanization is increasing at a slow rate in India than in China and Pakistan. China's urbanization is at the highest rate. Then sex ratio. Sex ratio is found to be biased against females in all the 3 nations. In India, it is 924 for per 1000 males. In China, it is 949 females for 1000 males, and in Pakistan it is 943 females for 1000 males. So in all the nations, females are lesser number than males. Okay. Low sex ratio points to social backwardness. Female foeticide, that means killing a girl child in womb of her mother, is female foeticide. Owing to preference for a son is the principal cause of low sex ratio. So they are killing girls in womb, and that's why sex ratio has become adverse. Now, annual growth rate growth of gross domestic product. Here the comparison has been made in two the durations, that is from 1980 to 90 and then from 2015 to 17. So here we can see that growth rate of India was 5.7 in 80 to 90 1980 to 90, and it increased to 7.3 in 15 to 17. Then China's growth rate was 10.3 in this time period, and thereafter it has reduced to 6.8, and Pakistan's growth rate initially in this 1980 to 90 was 6.3 and it has increased to 5.3. And now you can see that India's growth rate has increased, and for China and Pakistan it has decreased in 2015-17. That means India is progressing at a faster rate than China and Pakistan. Now, size of the economy. China is the second largest economy in the world with its GDP at nearly $33 trillion in 2023. So it is a $33 trillion on purchasing power parity basis, PPP basis. You might have read in your books that it's the largest economy among all these three nations and second largest economy in the world. Then India's GDP is $13 trillion in 2023 and Pakistan's GDP is $1.5 trillion in 2023. Why I have given this latest data? Because you should be well aware of this data, that how big your economies are. In your book, previous data has been given. Please refer to that data also. But in certain MCQs in nowadays in exams, your latest data may also be asked, and that's why I have included this data in your PPTs. Now, the reasons for slowdown of economic growth in China. Slowdown in the global economies which decrease the demand for the Chinese products. See, recession happened in the whole world, and recessionary tendencies in other nations, just like other developed nations, led to decrease in demand for Chinese products. And now, when they are not demanding Chinese product, how can China produce materials for them? Because demand in those countries has reduced. They do not want to purchase Chinese goods, and now that is the reason that its GDP is declining now. Growth of domestic demand in China is slowing down. Now, domestically also, in its own nation also, China's demand for goods and services are decreasing. Why? Chinese are not purchasing their own country-made products. Why? Because they have started saving, because their propensity to save has increased. That means when they are earning some income, they are saving more and spending less on purchase of goods and services. When they do not purchase goods and services in market, how will industries progress in China? And that is also the main reason that Chinese are saving more and spending less in economy. Then, corruption and economic crimes increased in China. Corruption is increasing day by day in China, and that is also a reason that Chinese economy is declining or moving towards recessionary tendencies. Then, Chinese people are now exploring higher wage opportunities employment. See, in China, government has the upper hand. It is all wholesale, and it does not let private sectors to develop according to their demands and their needs. And that's why they are not able to pay more to their employees, and even government sector is not paying higher wages to employees over there. So what Chinese people are doing? They are moving out of China to other nations in search of higher wage rates. So they are moving to other nations like developed nations of the world or developing nations of the world, where they are being paid higher wages. Then Chinese people are migrating to other nations for higher wages. Their domestic investors are trying to invest in economies where government intervention is minimum and political and social liberty is maximum. You might have seen, you might have read in reports that Chinese government intervenes at a very high rate. It intervenes like a hell. Okay, it does not let private sector entrepreneurs and businessmen to work according to their desires or to their needs. It pressurizes domestic businessmen. So what businessmen does not want this type of pressures? So these businessmen are moving out of China, and they are investing in other nations, maybe in developing nations like Pakistan or India or other developed nations also. They are investing out of China. So on that basis, China is losing its investment from its own businessmen also. Its own people are not investing in its economy. Then Chinese government is battling or fighting with problem of environmental degradation. See, when industrialization is carried on at a very fast pace, or you establish more and more industries in your country, what happens? You use more and more resources, and when you use more and more resources, you contaminate your environment. Your industries emit large amount of fumes, ashes and smokes into environment. It pollutes air, it pollutes water, it contaminates or destroys the fertility of soil, and that's why environmental crisis has happened in China. Its environment is degrading day by day, and that is also leading to its low growth rate, and it's fighting, it's jostling, it's battling with the issue of environmental degradation. Then high GDP growth has led to serious challenge of sustainable development. Now we discussed sustainable development in our previous chapter. What is that? A long-term growth without disturbing your balance of nature. That is the sustainable growth. And now UN also promotes this sustainable growth goals, but China is not able to cope or carry on these sustainable goals because of environmental degradation. Its soil is getting polluted, its water is getting polluted, its air has polluted. So that is leading to its downward fall in economic growth. Reasons of slowdown of economic growth in Pakistan. So here for Pakistan, the reasons are different from China. That is, here domestic investment in Pakistan as well as FDI has started decreasing. Why? Because people have started losing hope in China. China is more and more indulged in terrorism activities, terrorist activities. It's terrorizing borders. It's intervening in the policies of India. It's sending terrorists to India. It's sending terrorists to other nations as well. And now Afghanistan and Taliban is also intervening in Pakistan. Lot many terrorist attacks are happening in Pakistan. That is leading to political unrest in Pakistan and disturbance in Pakistan. Which businessman would like to invest in a nation which is politically jostling with these type of issues? So FDI or foreign direct investment is not taking place in your Pakistan, and domestic investment is also moving out of Pakistan, because businessmen, what do they want? They want peace for their business, because business can flourish only in an economy where peace is there, where they can flourish nicely, where they can do business nicely. Due to this, GDP growth has been severely affected. Now FDI is absent, domestic investment is moving out of Pakistan, then how Pakistan will grow? And that is the reason, for this very reason, GDP is declining in Pakistan. Now corruption and political instability, we know Pakistan is jostling or fighting with the issue of corruption in its government, in its political system, in its business, in its economy. It has led to economic stagnation of Pakistan's economy. Then, owing to slow GDP growth and low level of income, Pakistan's economy has sunk into low income, low growth trap. Now, Pakistan's economy is sinking. It has, you can say, sunk into low income. Why? Because when GDP is not increasing, industries are not functioning well, anything is not happening nicely, so people are receiving lesser amount of income, lesser amount of salary and wages. They don't have money, they can't spend on goods and services in the economy, and now what happens over there? Due to low income, low GDP is happening, and due to low GDP, low income is happening. And this is a vicious trap or spiral trap that is happening in Pakistan, and that is leading to low GDP growth in Pakistan. Now we can see the sectoral contribution of all these sectors over here. In agriculture, agriculture is contributing 16% in India, in China it's contributing 7%, in Pakistan it's contributing 24%. Industry, 30% is contribution goes by industries in India, 41% is being contributed by industries in China, and Pakistan is 19%. For services, it is 54% in India. Service sector is more developed in all the nations. See, in China, service sector is contributing 52%, and Pakistan 57% contribution is contributed by service sector. The share of workforce distribution, you can see India is having 43% of its people in agriculture, China is having 26% in agriculture, and 41% are engaged in agriculture in Pakistan. In industry, 25% people are engaged in India in industries, 28% of Chinese people are engaged in industries, and 24% of Pakistanis are engaged in industries. In services sector, it is 32% in India, it is 46% in services sector in China, and 35% in Pakistan. So this is the table. If you want to include some data in your exams, then you can go through this table and include the data. You can memorize this data just comparatively manner and you can include that. Done. As seen from the table, all the three countries have experienced a noticeable structural transformation. No longer agriculture is the principal contributor. What is the way to explain this table? That agriculture is not the mainstay in all these three nations, and they developed their agriculture, and industries are also developed in these nations. In terms of the sectoral contribution, GDP of these economies of India and Pakistan relying heavily on tertiary sector, and their industrial sector is lagging far behind. For the economy of China is also relying significantly on the services sector, but its industrial sector is not lagging behind. See, there's a difference between India and Pakistan and China. Why? Because in China industries have developed sufficiently, but for Pakistan and India, industries are not developed that much in comparison to your China. So here industries in Pakistan and India are lagging behind your Chinese development. The table also shows that experience of China like the experience of most developed countries. What is the experience of most developed countries? You can go through this data. I'll explain it in another manner. See, in most of the countries, first of all, they develop their agriculture, as happened in case of China. Their economic reforms after 1978 focused more on agriculture previously, and thereafter they focused on development of industry. But in India and Pakistan, what has happened? They developed their agriculture, but thereafter they did not fully develop their industries and moved on directly to service sector. But China moved from agriculture to industry and then from industry to agriculture. That means it has developed its agriculture first, thereafter it developed its industries, and thereafter it has developed its tertiary sector. But India and Pakistan developed their agriculture and directly developed their service sector, but their industrial sector is still lagging behind. That's the difference between these nations. Then, indicators of human development. What are they? Life expectancy, adult literacy rate, percentage of population below poverty line, infant mortality, all are these indicators. And life expectancy, that is higher the better. If you have high expectancy in any nation, this is good. This is good indicator that people are getting good food, good shelter, good environment, good hygiene, good sanitation, good education, everything good. And that's why their expectancy of life is greater. So it is higher the better. Then adult literacy rate, higher the better. Okay. How, if your people are literate, if your people are educated, it is good. So higher the better. Then percentage of population below poverty line. You should have very less number of people below poverty line, or I think there should be no one below poverty line, and that's why it is lower the better. Okay. Then infant mortality rate, lower the better. Child dying before 1 year's age is really painful. It is really sad, and children should not die at a very young age, and people should reach their maximum age limit which they can live. So it is very bad, and that's why lower the better. Maternal mortality rate. Mothers or females who die while giving birth to their child or while being pregnant or due to some complications, that should be lower the better. Females should not die while giving birth to their children, and that is indication of your lesser amount of hospital facilities or hygiene facilities in your rural and urban areas. Then percentage of population having access sources. Access to sources means you are having all the facilities, hygiene facilities, health facilities, infrastructure facilities, and all the facilities, and higher the better. If you have good facilities, it's good. Then percentage of undernourished population. Undernourished means you are not having good food. You are malnourished. You don't have all the 3 meals per day. You don't have good quality of protein, carbohydrate, minerals, vitamins, etc. So you don't have a good amount of food or good quality of food. That is undernourished. So undernourished population should be very less, or there should be no one undernourished. So lower the better. Then percentage of population having access to improved sanitation. Sanitation is best. If you have good level of sanitation, improved level of sanitation, then lesser number of people will fall ill, and that is really higher the better. That means if you have higher level of sanitation, that is very fine. Then GDP per capita adjusted for the differences in purchasing power parity in dollar terms across different nations, called purchasing power parity, is higher the better. So GDP per capita is also indication of your what? development. Then, based on these indices, a composite index is constructed called HDI, Human Development Index. So, all the indices, all the factors we have discussed in our previous slide, they all contributed together towards indices, or on the basis of them index is formed, that is called your Human Development Index. If that index is really good in some nation, that means its human resource is really developed. Then higher value of HDI points to a higher rank and a higher level of human development as a consequence of overall growth of the economy. So if in any nation HDI is high, that means that nation is developed and its human resource is also developed. Then liberty indicators. What are they? Liberty indicators refer to the measures of the extent of demographic participation in the social and political decision making. So if you live in any nation, if you have right, if you have a freedom of expression of political decision making, or if you can participate in political decision making and in social causes and in some social questions, you can get answers to them. So that is your liberty indicator. That extent of demographic participation in social and political decision making. Demographic participation means every person has equal right and no one is discouraged from doing any rightful thing, and no one is partially treated on the basis of your caste, creed, color or religion or caste. Okay. Then extent of constitutional protection given to rights of citizens. So how many constitutional rights are given to people, how they are constitutionally strong, that also is an indicator of your liberty in any country. This is all about this chapter. We have discussed our 9th chapter, that was the last chapter of our book of Indian economic development. So if you have any problem regarding this chapter or other chapters which we have discussed previously, you may refer to our comment box and you can comment on the content, and whatever you did not understand, please do write in those comments. We will be more than happy to answer, and thereafter I'll be covering all the questions, MCQs, etc. for this book. And thank you for watching all these videos. Thank you for subscribing our channel. Thank you so much. Take care. God bless you and work hard.